Let me start with this. Have you ever stood on deck, looked up at a ship's funnel, and thought, yeah, that probably isn't doing the planet any favors? You're not wrong. This is MARPOL Made Simple, Module 6, and today we're talking about Annex 6, the part of MARPOL that controls air pollution from ships. No chemistry lesson, no legal waffle, just what you actually need to know at sea. Most MARPOL rules deal with the sea itself, what ends up in the water. Annex 6 is different. It's about the air we breathe. Think of the funnel, whatever leaves it, that's Annex 6. Smoke, exhaust, vapors, gases. If it burns, vents, or escapes into the air, Annex 6 pays attention. Why? Ports and coastal towns breathe that stuff. It hurts lungs and adds to climate problems. So the rules push us to cut harmful emissions, protect people's health, reduce climate damage, and run ships more efficiently. Who does this apply to? Well, it applies to most commercial ships over 400 gross tons. In plain terms, that's basically almost everyone. Let's talk about one of the biggest operational changes in modern shipping, the one every crew member feels. Sulfur limits. You've probably heard about them, but why do they matter so much? It's all about protecting our air and health, especially in coastal communities. High sulfur fuel creates emissions that can lead to acid rain and respiratory problems. So, the industry had to change, and this is why the fuel changeover procedure exists. Globally, under what's known as the IMO 2020 rule, ships are limited to using fuel with no more than 0.5% sulfur content. But in certain sensitive sea areas, called emission control areas, or ECAs, that limit drops dramatically to just 0.1%. That's a massive five-fold difference, and it's not a suggestion. These strictly controlled areas include the North Sea, the Baltic Sea, the North American coast, and parts of the Caribbean. Imagine you're approaching one of these boundaries. The clock is ticking. This is why engineers get a little twitchy near ECA lines. It's a carefully coordinated dance between the bridge and the engine room. A fuel changeover is not just an engine room thing. It's a critical, legally mandated procedure. Before entering an ECA, the entire fuel system needs to be switched over. The process involves carefully flushing the high-sulfur fuel out of the service tanks and pipelines and ensuring the low-sulfur fuel is fully circulating before you cross that line. Every step, the times, dates, and ship's position must be meticulously logged. And you can bet that Port State Control will check everything. They'll scrutinize your logs, your tank soundings, your calculations, and even take their own fuel samples. If the paperwork doesn't perfectly match what the ship is actually doing, or what the fuel samples show, that's a clear-cut case of non-compliance with serious consequences. Some ships use scrubbers instead of changing fuel. These systems clean the exhaust gases. There are open-loop, closed-loop, and hybrid systems. But don't be fooled. Scrubbers are not a free pass. Some ports ban open-loop scrubbers completely. If a scrubber fails, it must be reported immediately. Running silently on a broken system? That's how ships get detained. Now let's talk about nitrogen oxides, or NOx. These mainly come from how hot engines burn fuel. Annex 6 controls this using engine design standards, called tiers. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Tier 3 is the strictest and usually applies in special areas. This mostly affects new ships, but it's why modern engines are packed with technology to reduce emissions. Annex 6 isn't just about what comes out of the funnel today. It also looks at how efficient ships are overall. So, how does the industry actually enforce these big goals for cutting emissions? It's not just about hoping for the best. This is where a few key acronyms come into play: EEDI, EEXI, and CII. I know, it sounds like alphabet soup, and honestly, when I first heard them, I thought they sounded incredibly complicated. But stick with me, because the core ideas are actually pretty straightforward, and they affect every single one of us at sea. Let's start with EEDI. It stands for the Energy Efficiency Design Index. The key word here is design. This applies to new ships only. Think of it like this. Before a new ship is even allowed to be built and touch the water, it has to prove it won't be a fuel-guzzling dinosaur. It's a hurdle that must be cleared right at the drawing board. EEDI is essentially a formula. It calculates the theoretical grams of CO2 a ship will emit for every ton of cargo it moves over 1 nautical mile. It looks at everything from the hull shape and propeller design to the main engine's power. If a new ship's design doesn't meet the required efficiency standard for its size and type, it simply doesn't pass. It can't be built. So EEDI is a powerful tool that forces naval architects and shipyards to innovate. creating cleaner, more efficient ship designs from day one. But what about all the ships already sailing? That brings us to EEXI. It stands for the Energy Efficiency Existing Ship Index. This is basically the EEDI concept, but retroactively applied to older ships. It's a way to bring the existing global fleet up to a minimum standard of efficiency. Unlike a continuous rating, this is a one-time certification. The ship has to prove, through its technical files, that it meets a minimum efficiency level based on its type and size. If it fails, something has to change. This doesn't mean a complete rebuild. Often, it involves installing an engine power limiter, or EPL, to cap the engine's maximum output, or making other technical upgrades like adding energy-saving devices. So in simple terms, EEDI ensures new ships are born efficient by design. EEXI makes sure older ships get a mandatory efficiency tune-up to prove they're not wasting fuel. It's a two-pronged approach to cleaning up the hardware of our industry. CII is your ship's yearly report card. It scores how efficiently you move cargo. Simple idea. The less fuel burned to do the job, the better the grade. It looks at three things we all understand: fuel you burn, distance you sail, cargo you carry. From that, you get a grade from A to E. A is very efficient. E means you're wasting fuel. Why care? Because grades affect money and work. Bad grades trigger improvement plans and closer audits. Charterers and ports pay attention, and so do bosses. Good grades save fuel and keep voyages profitable. What can we do on board, starting today? Sail a touch slower when safe and allowed. Plan routes smartly. Avoid racing to wait at anchor. Keep the hull and propeller clean. Trim and ballast for an easy-running ship. Maintain engines, filters, and injectors. Use shore power or cleaner energy when available. Log fuel honestly and track progress each day. Talk early between bridge and engine room about speed and weather. Bottom line, CII isn't paperwork. It's how we run the ship day by day to burn less and earn more. Annex 6 also controls ozone-depleting substances, old refrigeration systems, old firefighting systems. These can't be leaked, topped up casually, or ignored. Everything must be recorded, maintained, and disposed of properly. No one noticed is not a defense. And no, you can't just burn whatever you want at sea. Annex 6 strictly controls incineration. Some things can be burned, some absolutely cannot. Plastics, chemicals, and prohibited waste are a hard no. Illegal burning is one of the fastest ways to get in serious trouble. And now, paperwork. Annex 6 loves paperwork. You'll see things like International Air Pollution Prevention Certificates, bunker delivery notes, fuel samples, engine technical files, and fuel changeover logs. If it's not written down, in the eyes of the law, it didn't happen. So what happens if Annex 6 is breached? There can be fines, detentions, criminal charges, ships can be blacklisted, leading to lost charters. And yes, individuals can be held responsible. This is not guidance, this is international law. So let's bring it all home. When you boil it down, MARPOL Annex 6 is about one thing: progress. It's our industry's commitment to cleaning up its act, ensuring that the ships we operate today are better than the ones that came before. We're talking about cleaner air for coastal communities and healthier oceans for everyone. It also pushes us towards building and operating more efficient ships, which is just smart business. And remember, the standards we've discussed aren't the end of the story. They're only getting stricter, so staying informed is key. If this module helped clear things up, you're already on the right track. Do us a favor and hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe share it with your crew during the next coffee break. Because out on the water, the sea might forgive an honest mistake. But regulators, with their checklists and logbook reviews, definitely won't. And that brings us to our next module, where we'll cover exactly how MARPOL is enforced in the real world. We're diving deep into port state control inspections, the reality of detentions, the sting of fines, and what actually happens when things go wrong on board. It's where all this theory meets the unforgiving reality of a port inspection. You don't want to miss it. I'm Shelby, Chief Officer Safety, and you've been watching the Cruise Ship Safety and Security channel. This was MARPOL Made Simple, Module 6. Stay safe out there.